then he takes the whole cantaloupe out of his ass and he asks the doctor, "How did this get there?"
Oh man, that's good.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Back Issues with Tiny and Adam. I'm Tiny, your host. With me, as always, Adam Levy. Adam, how are you this evening?
I'm great, Mike. How you doing?
High definition tonight. Ladies and
Isn't it
gentlemen, new
wonderful to have a working camera?
Yay! New webcam, no fading in and out. Did you see that smooth transition from the title card? I feel like we're going places.
Isn't technology wonderful?
Sad news. I'm going to start with sad news.
Okay.
Wilder died.
Yeah, that I heard that. I heard that this afternoon. That sucked.
I thought it was a hoax because I've heard the hoax like a million times.
Yeah,
and I was hoping it was. It apparently was the New York Times that said it. So.
Yeah, one of my friends at work mentioned it, and honestly, I thought he'd passed away already. I'm like, what? And I'm like, this is an old story. Then I looked it up and I realized, no, he was alive. Shit, I was wrong.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about that, I'm sure, on Monkey Caviar this Wednesday. And what else do we got? We got Fantasy Monkeys tomorrow night. We're gonna dissect our draft from this weekend. It'd be fun. It was quite the drunken experience. It took 4.5 hours. No,
as any good draft should
take that. Oh my God, it was so long. But I had to come home because I had comics to read, and man, I had a lot.
Yeah, this wasn't a short series.
It was 72 issues of Garth Ennis. The Boys is what we're talking about tonight.
Actually closer to 90 issues if you count the miniseries, the 3 miniseries they did.
All right, I didn't do the miniseries, thankfully.
Well, there's only one that's really worth reading.
I got through with this about an hour ago, so it's pretty fresh.
Yeah, out of the 3 miniseries, there's only one of them that's really worth reading, and that's Herogasm, the first miniseries they did.
Herogasm is a gathering of soups, right?
Yeah, basically, every year the major companies, Marvel, DC, used to do these big summer crossover events. They would go through like all of their titles. It would be this big intergalactic threat, and this Herogasm,
like Civil War kind of thing.
Yeah, like Crisis on Infinite Earths or DC's Invasion or Bloodlines, those kinds of stories. This kind of plays on that, whereas, where the comic books have this big summer crossover where all the heroes go off to space to fight something, but in actuality, what they do is they go to this private island somewhere in the middle of the ocean, and it's a week-long event where they just, having sex and getting high and just doing whatever it is they want to do.
Yeah, I was gonna put like a TVMA thing on this podcast before we started, and I should probably let you know, if you have the sensitive ears and you're not into the gratuitous sex and violence, this is not your podcast. Tune out.
No, and this is not your book
no way
either.
We can talk about this book. Yeah, we can't talk about this book without getting into some graphically horse, and there's so much badness in this. It's wonderful. It's wonderful.
It's like if Garth Ennis took The Preacher and The Pro and they had a child, it would be The Boys. You've got that craziness you've got that craziness that comes from Preacher, and you've got that just weird, crazy sex related, superhero drama that comes from The Pro, and this just combines everything into one massive, gigantic fucked up story.
Right. I'm going to set it up for you. Adam's going to hammer out the big details because, like I said, I went through it once and I just finished. But basically, it is a group of 5 people called the Boys who are a CIA unit to stop superheroes in the event that they should go rogue or crazy, or in the case of this world, literally.
Yeah. Basically, their mission is to observe and, if necessary, take action.
And so there is one large. There are several superhero teams in the book. One major one, the 7. They are like the Avengers of our story. More the Justice League.
They're the Justice League. Yeah,
they're by far the Justice League because everyone is well represented.
Yeah.
They are made up of Homelander, who is Superman.
Mm-hmm.
A-Train, who would be the Flash.
Yeah.
Queen Mav, who would be Wonder Woman.
Yep.
The Deep, who would be Aquaman. Who would you give Black Noir to?
I gave he's more closer to Batman. I mean, if anything,
All right, a little bit.
I mean, he's
okay.
Close, but not quite.
Jack from Jupiter would be the Martian Manhunter.
Yep.
Closest facsimile thereof. And Starlight, Starfire? I don't know.
Well, she was brought in to replace the Lamplighter, who was the Green Lantern character of the group, so to speak.
The Lamplighter. I didn't even put that together.
Yeah.
I was like, who is the Lamplighter? Oh, the Green Lantern. There you go.
Yeah,
So Mr. Marathon would be who?
Mr. Marathon was also a Flash type character.
A Flash type character.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, but he was A-Train replaced him, right?
Yeah. We never see Mr. Marathon in the story. He died before. Actually, I think you see him once in the recounting of the 9/11 incident. But he's in like
the 9/11.
He's
yes,
in
in this
panels.
comic, 9/11 goes down different.
Oh, very different.
Very different. All right, so let's get into the boys themselves. There are 5 members: Butcher, Little Huey, Mother's Milk, the Frenchman, and the female.
These are some of the most, crazy, badass people that you will ever encounter. And hopefully, if you ever encounter them, you're not on the wrong side, because
these
guys. Well, I mean, you break it down. You've got Butcher, who is the team leader. He's the brains behind the group, but he's also the muscle.
British.
He's hardcore British guy from the West End. Served in the Royal Marines. And you find out through the course of the story that he's got a very big axe to grind with the superheroes, and with Homelander in particular.
That he believes Homelander his wife.
Well, it didn't kill her. He raped his wife, but she got pregnant in the process, and the fetus ended up clawing out through her stomach and eventually killed her because of that.
Yeah,
pretty graphic.
That's kind of what we're talking about, folks.
Yeah.
All right. So, who would you cast as Butcher?
Vinnie Jones.
Vinnie Jones, Hondo, 100%. Though I like dark hair, I think Clive Owen, but Clive Owen's not nearly badass enough to pull this off.
No, I mean Vinny's got I could hear Vinnie Jones as I read, Butcher's dialogue. He's got the look. He's big. He's a very imposing character, but he also he can come across as being a nice guy too.
Right, and he's not the biggest fella in the group. So him being a little smaller with the Vinnie Jones could be smaller than who I would cast as Mother's Milk. Because God, I don't even know who I'd cast as Mother's Milk.
If he was alive, I'd have to say Michael Clark Duncan.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a big, giant, enormous black dude. It could be any number of wrestlers.
Yeah,
just
Mark Henry.
He's just an enormous hunk of specimen who continuously have milk from his mother, or he withers away.
Yeah. Mother's Milk is the only character on the team who was actually born with powers. You find out through his backstory later on that his mom worked in a factory that going back a little bit, all these superheroes in this world were created.
It's hard.
All the superheroes in this world were created through chemistry. Much in the way that
by the Vought Corporation.
Yeah, Vought American. Basically, it kind of mirrors the our nuclear weapons and space program, with how the U.S. smuggled these Nazi scientists out of Germany to create our rocket programs and stuff. The same thing happened in this story, where there was a German scientist who was working on a formula to create superheroes, and the government got him out, and he basically started creating superheroes for this corporation, Vought American. So a lot of these characters,
he's America, but
exactly
working for a corporation instead of with Stark.
Exactly. So most of these characters, almost all of the major characters, were created by this corporation to, for profit. They're a corporation. They want money. This is a big moneymaker for them. But they're they were careless in how they handle the chemicals, how they handle this compound V, what it was called. And some of it got out into the environment. And there are people that, came across their powers naturally by coming into contact with this and their parents giving birth to kids. But, a lot of the times it was very dangerous and you got completely unpredictable results. And more often than not, it resulted in some kind of terrible death. But, every so often
it exploded.
Yeah, exactly. Every so often it resulted in somebody, who became a decent character. Mother's Milk is one of these characters. He was born with these powers, and yeah, like Mike was saying, if he doesn't, continually drink his mother's milk, he will wither and die.
It was the craziest backstory I think I might have ever heard in a comic.
Well, it was.
I'm reading it and I'm like, all right, the baby gives off the tea and he starts to wither away. So she goes back on. And it doesn't dawn on me for a couple of pages later that like this grown ass man still needs his mama's boob.
Yeah.
And he hires like prostitutes and just sucks titty.
Yeah.
For like hours.
That's his thing. Yeah. But see, all the other guys and almost all the other characters in the boys were given a modified version of this compound V that basically just enhances their strength and their speed and their agility. It basically makes them as strong as like 10 or 20 men. They don't get crazy superpowers. They can't fly or shoot laser beams, nothing. They're just strong ass people.
Butcher has the V compound in him, correct?
Well, Butcher, Huey, the Frenchman, and Mallory all had the injection. The female, she got it as a child.
The female got it as a child. Okay.
Yeah, she crawled into a vat of like V runoff waste and ate it, and ended up, just.
Is that a backstory thing?
Yeah, it was a single issue story. It was like right around the time of there was like they did the Mother's Milk story, the Frenchman story, and then the female story.
Oh.
It was just a single issue.
I read those all today. Yeah. All right. Anyway, let's not dwell on my lack of knowledge.
No worries.
There's plenty of that to go around. So Frenchie and the female are both basically just straight ass kicking machines. They're the darts you throw at the target.
Yeah, they are weapons.
And they're gonna hit it. They are absolute weapons. And the female doesn't speak. She has one line, I think.
Yeah.
And that line is, I don't like bad people, which I thought was great.
I hate mean people.
Give her one line.
Yeah.
I don't like mean people. Yeah. Great line. The story is really about Huey.
Yeah. Huey.
And Huey has a lovely girlfriend that he loves spending time with, and they twirl in the park. And they are involved in an incident in which a superhero is chasing a bad guy and accidentally rips his girlfriend's arms off of her.
Well,
is that right? Or, well, I mean,
what happens is it's A-Train's chasing some bad guy down, and he knocks into the guy who then smashes into Huey's girlfriend Robin at supersonic speed. Like at Mach 1, and all that's Huey's left holding her arms as the rest of her is just smashed into a brick wall. Huey is a lot. No, she did not make it through that one. If you throughout the story, you kind of realize that Huey is he's like the exact opposite of Butcher. They both have the same motivations as for doing what they do, whereas Billy is bitter and angry about this, and he wants to hit something. Huey just wants to get answers. He just wants to find out what's going on and stop this from happening to somebody else. But they have the same motivations, the same reasons for being there. And
he's a good guy, and he's not as violent as the rest of this team. But Butcher wants to bring him into the fold because of his motivation, and his motivation makes him lethal once you compound it with a little injection of the V compound.
Yeah,
I know what he's giving him. He just gives it to him, and it turns out that it takes some time, and little Huey gets in a fight and accidentally kills a guy.
Yeah. The
not trying to. The Blarney cock.
Yeah, that's the first storyline where Huey's first getting acquainted with the boys and what it is they do. Their first target's a group called Teenage Kicks, who I'm not quite sure what team.
There are so many great little superheroes names in this.
Oh yeah,
just the names that amongst the many. There's several different teams, so it's really hard for me to keep track of them. But throughout them, there are some amazing superhero names, and the Blarney Cock is one of my all-time favorites.
Well, yeah, like the Teenage Kicks, it was like the Blarney Cock, Pop Claw, Dog Knot. I don't remember all the other names, but yeah, there were some weird characters in that group. And I'm not quite sure. I don't know if they were supposed to be not quite Teen Titans because they weren't all sidekicks. I guess if I had to say pick a team, they're probably kind of like the New Mutants. Young characters waiting to get a call up to the big league. Was that?
Do you think this is really a direct stab at DC, or is it just
both?
The comic book industry in general? Because the Legend is definitely not DC. The Legend is definitely Stan the Man, right?
Well, he's a bit Stan and a bit Jack Kirby. He's kind of a combination of the two of those guys.
And a lot Odin Quinn.
Yes, very much so. Garth didn't pick a side. He made fun of both Marvel and DC characters throughout the story. Even pulled an Image and some of that stuff. So he made fun of it all across the board. So I guess you can kind of say it as a poke at the industry in general.
The Legend is a character who, all right, so this Vought America Corporation, who makes money off of these superheroes, makes all the money. So they write the comic books, and they're kind of like the tales you get to hear to the public.
Yeah,
and they make all the only time
these characters are heroic is in their comic books. Outside of the printed page,
these
people are the most depraved and morally reprehensible and just fucked up characters you could ever imagine.
The worst, by far. They're all horrible. So the Legend, who is like a Stan Lee kind of Jack Kirby, Odin Cannon kind of little tiny guy with no feet. He runs like the comic, and he knows all the fucking secrets, all of them.
Yeah, he ran a company called Victory Comics.
Leaks out information, but it's a lot of it is his agenda. Yeah, that he's pushing his agenda, and Butcher has his own agenda, and some of the right way.
Yeah, So like in the 40s and 50s, when these characters were being introduced to the world, they needed a way to kind of sell them, so they went the comic book route, and the Legend was the head guy at this company called Victory Comics, and they basically became the publication arm of Vought American. But the thing is Vought American, really they're a defense contractor. They are their bread and butter was military stuff. And you find this out later on in one of the stories that Legend's telling to Huey, basically giving the backstory of Vought American, how they just at every step of the way they just fucked up. They were the lowest bidders on all these jobs, and they produced crap that just got American soldiers killed. And they were just as
planes that wouldn't fly in World War I, guns that wouldn't shoot in Vietnam.
Yeah, it was a mess.
Atrocity.
And then superheroes is where they finally found their calling, and that's where they were making all their money. But yeah, so the Legend, he's their intel guy on the inside. He doesn't work for the comic book stuff anymore, but he's still got all the connections. And he still has access to the Vought American, corporation's servers, so he can get them information from them from time to time. He's like their biggest source of information. But yeah, he definitely has his own agenda.
Yeah, I love that the Legend's hideout is in the basement of a comic book store that is run by two giant fat guineas who have they treat the customers like crap because they don't care. Because they're just a front for the Legend, really. Yeah. So that they treat the customers like crap. They have lightsaber fights in the store. They're just absolute comic fodder. And actually, two of the people that make it out of this alive, which is amazing in this book.
Yeah, they never really had any big part in the story, but they were there. Whenever they were there, they were just hilarious. In Huey's first adventure with the boys, they're going after this group called Teenage Kicks, and they finally decide to confront this group after sending them blackmail photos of just some of the crazy shit they're doing, running around whorehouses and stealing medication from children's hospitals, and just, this is the kind of fucked up things that these people do. And
stealing meds from a children's hospital.
And so in their in Huey's first fight, he ends up punching the Blarney cock and punching a hole right through his spine and killed him. And this led to the incident that caused DC to drop this comic book in the first place.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the first six issues.
Was what?
The first 6 issues of The Boys were put out by DC Comics.
Oh, I was not aware of this.
Yeah. Well, when the hamster crawled out of Blarney Cock's ass, that's when DC kind of said, you know what? I don't think this is for us anymore. Yeah, Jamie.
I love Jamie the hamster. He's in it. He lives through it too.
Yeah.
Go Jamie.
That's when DC said, yeah, you know what? I don't think this is for us. And DC dropped it after 6 issues.
I would have thought I'd have thought they'd have dropped it when Starlight went to the 7 for the first time.
You'd think so.
That's exactly when they should have went, all right, maybe this isn't for us. But no, It was Jamie crawling out of Blarney Cock's ass.
I mean, it might have been a combination of all those things, but issue 6 was the last issue DC put out, and then it was in limbo for a while until Dynamite picked it up and said, hey, you know what, this is just the kind of thing we want, and Dynamite ran with it for the rest of the series. Yeah, exactly.
So after killing the Blarney Cock, Huey has a little crisis of conscience, and he goes to the park to, sit on a bench and think a bit. And he meets this girl, Annie. Hit it off, and it's all well and good. And the Scotsman in New York has found a lady love, a paramour to woo.
Yeah, and after it's only been a few months since the incident with his girlfriend in Scotland. He's come to the United States, and he's just, gone through this whole bloody battle and just accidentally killed a guy because he didn't know what it is that he can and can't do as far as his powers are able to. And he meets somebody that's nice to him, which is, unusual for him at this point. And
she happens to be a smokehouse, which doesn't hurt anything.
This is true. And it also just happens to be that she is Starlight, the newest member of the 7.
The newest member of the elite superhero team. And she gets to go up to their lair, I guess. What is it, a space station kind of thing?
Yeah, kind of. There's their fortress in the clouds.
Their fortress in the clouds. And she comes in, and she's very excited for her first day on the new superhero team. She's going to be an Avenger or a Justice League member. And she meets all the boys, and she meets Homelander. And he's quick and gracious to welcome her to the team. And there's only one thing she's got to do, and that's suck everybody off.
Yeah, he drops his pants and tells her this is the final test to make it in. And then Black Noir shows up, and A-Train shows up, and she
everybody whips out a cock.
She makes like a circus seal.
She goes to town. Bam.
And the thing is you find out that Annie, like, she's a good girl. She was raised like in a Catholic house, and the team she was on before, the Young Americans, they were like really a super religious group. They participated in all like the big religious events that Vought American has for the superheroes. She was one of the few that wasn't corrupted by all of this shit that these heroes have.
She might have been the only one.
Well, you find that there's another group later on. Super duper.
Yeah. All right, but what the story really postulates is that with all this superpower, and I don't want to do with great power comes great responsibility, but with all this power, they've become absolutely above the law. They can do whatever they want.
But between that and all the money that the company throws at them, they basically don't ever have to pay for anything. They're basically provided this entire life of debauchery. Anything that they could think of, it's there for them. So there's no consequences. There's nothing, they're not held accountable for anything because the corporation will cover everything up. So when you have all this power and zero responsibility, this is what you can turn into.
And they're all just wonderful, wonderful people. So after she makes like the seal, she too goes to the park to, be, oh, bummer, my job sucks. Literally.
Mm-hmm.
And so they kind of start their little relationship, not knowing what the other one does. Of course.
Yeah, they spend
I
half the
found
book
that
lying to each other about what it is that they do.
that was a little far fetched for me that he couldn't recognize a member of the Seven.
Well, you also got to
All right.
realize he didn't really follow any of the superhero stuff before this, and she wasn't a big player at this point either. She wasn't somebody that would have
and
been
they
on their
bring it up
radar.
in the book that they do bring it up that he's not a fan of the superheroes, so he doesn't follow it. But still, if this is the number one team in a world where superheroes exist and you're fighting them, I would think you'd have knowledge of who was around. I mean, there should have been a picture up somewhere.
Well, like I said, she was brand new to the team too, so she had just joined the team. They hadn't really put out all the publicity yet, so
but the story takes a while.
It does.
I mean, the story takes a couple of years, so at some point somebody could have popped a picture up.
Yeah,
but it doesn't happen. All right, so where do you want to go from there?
I think part of the reason also might be is that even though the Seven were their major target, the boys didn't really focus on them too much because there was a lot of other stuff going on, and they had that truce between the two teams. So it was kind of like you stay out of our way, we'll stay out of your way. Aside from the bugs they had in their lair, that's pretty much all they ever really concerned themselves with the Seven until later on in the story when shit starts going down.
Right.
So it's entirely possible they just never really covered that. But
want to go from Huey and Annie meeting?
I guess we can really talk about what some of the story really gets into. I mean, without going into so much detail about the story, it ultimately comes down to, I mean, there's a couple major themes going on. You've got the absolute power corrupts absolutely. You've got the superheroes and, this whole idea of, well, who can stop me? So why can't I do whatever it is I want to do? And, this comes into play. The whole idea starts in the Herogasm storyline. This is where Homelander first has this idea of that, hey, maybe we can do more than what it is that we actually do. And it takes time for it to get off the ground. But, that all culminates like in the big finale of the story. You've got, the whole evil corporation. We've talked a little bit about the kind of stuff that this corporation gets up to. And, they spend some time on the business side. There's this, the handler for the Seven, Sitwell. And he's,
that's his name. Sitwell.
He's just this guy is like always cool as a cucumber. I mean, he's in the presence of the 7 most powerful people in the world, and his heartbeat's never above like 80/60. I mean, that's some cold-blooded shit right there. And
who would you cast for Sitwell?
That's a good question.
It's kind of a generic role. I mean, as far as looks go, there's nothing very standout about it. He's a corporate stooge in a suit with dark hair. So it really could be anybody. But you want somebody that looks so steely and he wouldn't fluctuate at all in the presence of these massive heroes.
I'd say Ed Norton.
Edward Norton. All right. Or Robert Patrick.
Yeah. Yeah.
T-1000.
Yeah, he's a solid guy. I can see him doing that.
All right. So Sitwell has he's like their caretaker. He sits in on all their meetings. He kind of gives them the 7 anyway. Well, he's over all the teams, I guess.
But yeah,
right?
but the 7, he's in charge of like superhuman development at Vought American. But yeah, he's always He's always sitting on their meetings. He's the liaison between the corporation and the superheroes. He is the go-between guy.
And he gives 0 fucks.
Not at all.
None.
He's the only guy that seems to be able to scare the Homelander. And this guy has absolutely no power whatsoever. But yet, this guy shows up and Homelander gets quiet. They refer to him as the money because there are a number of situations where, in a meeting, somebody will say something stupid, and afterwards, Homelander will just get all up in their case and be like, "You don't fuck around in front of the money."
And what Vought America is trying to achieve in the story is to get superheroes into defense contracts, defending nations.
Yeah, like I said, they're a defense contractor. This is the next evolution of weaponry. If superhumans. And there's even later on, there's a story where it shows the first time they actually tried to use superhumans in combat back during World War II in Colonel Mallory's backstory. You get the first version of Payback, which are this is the Avengers. This is the Avengers team. You get the first version of Payback showing up, alongside a tank division just across the border in Germany, and they end up, because of they're not trained, they have no military skill whatsoever, and they think that they're gods among men. They go off doing what they think that they should be doing, which in turn leads the German squad back to them. And ultimately, the first version of Payback did not last very long in their first combat mission.
It was quite short.
Yeah, I mean, guy getting run over by a tank. Just to show you that just because there's people have superpowers doesn't mean that they're going to be great weapons. No training.
And I can't tell you the sheer beauty of the violence depicted in this comic. When we say a guy gets cut in half by a tank or run over by a tank, there's guts, there's goo, there's blood squirting everywhere. It is beautifully, beautifully horrific.
I mean, just an example of how graphic and gory some of the stuff is. The pictures of the Homelander. Yeah.
So the boys have a little bit of blackmail on the Homelander in that they have a series of photos of him brutally raping and dismembering and eating eating a baby. Yeah. A family including a baby. And
there's a picture of him literally skull fucking some guy in the back of his head. There's another picture of him, putting his fist through some guy's chest and out of his mouth, ripping somebody apart, eating a baby, and just laughing with glee the entire time. And it's just like, what if Superman had done this? This is
right.
This is like, what if Superman just went ape shit and decided to do whatever the fuck he wanted to do? You feel like eating a baby? Who's going to stop Superman from eating a baby?
What if emo Superman came down and said, you know what? I give no fucks. I'm going to put babies on spikes. That's what I'm going to do. And he just did it. And everybody would just stand around in awe because what can you do?
Yeah. There was the story, one of the storylines, Believe, where you see Homelander, win a dinner with Homelander, and you see Homelander flying that family off, and then he drops them in the ocean.
So a Christian superhero team up in which the superheroes talk about the glory of God and how if Jesus isn't your personal savior, you're wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
And
it's Harvest Crusade. It's Harvest Crusade meets superheroes.
Yeah, and so one of the prizes is win dinner with the Homelander, and he takes the family off in their car like the end of Grease.
Yeah,
like he's flying off with them, and everybody's like, "We go together." And then he gets them up into altitude, and they start shivering, and they're cold. And then he just fucking drops them.
Yeah. Well, see,
and then he's like, I don't know what happened to him. I left him on the interstate, and no one's seen him since.
This isn't the first time he did that. In Herogasm, at one point during that, you see him flying up, just hovering in the air, completely butt naked. And this jetliner comes up, and he's just like, fuck it. Heat visions the cockpit, blows the plane up, sends it crashing into the ocean. Why?
Just
because he can.
Dick.
Because he can. Yeah.
So
and then you find out later on that this is all a mistake too. I'm not going to spoil that one because that one I did not see coming.
No, there are some glorious little things that if you just wait for it, this book delivers in spades.
Yeah,
and you're not going to be disappointed in the end. You're not going to walk out or finish reading it and go, "Ooh, that was feel good story of the year."
Yeah. I mean, there are some storylines where it's like it's like all's well that ends well, but there's a lot of storylines where it's just like, oh my god, that's fucked up.
Yeah. I didn't appreciate the end of a few characters, but most of them I was pretty okay with.
Yeah. One of the things I really liked is like there was the way he tackled some of these superhero teams that are easily identifiable as what teams he's making fun of, and just painting them in the worst possible way ever. Like a great example is the G-Men. The G-Men, obviously they're the X-Men.
Okay.
They are.
And there's G-Man Light, the G is so
there's G Coast, there's G Style, there's G Wiz,
Right.
there's Pre Wiz. You know,
G-Wiz.
just like every there's like a crap ton of different X teams. There are a bunch of different G teams, and they're all run by this guy named Mr. Godolkin, who is the Charles Xavier of the group, obviously. But
powerless.
He's powerless. But this is what if Charles Xavier was a complete fucking bastard. You know, instead of these mutants who have no place to go and Xavier taking them in and training them how to survive in a world that fears and hates him, he kidnaps kids and then gives them powers. Yeah, he kidnaps kids. The entirety of the G-Men organization, like 50 some odd plus members, are all kidnapped kids, and it's like, like, this is absolutely horrible story. The whole thing kicks off with one of these these characters from the main team going to the town that she was originally taken from, where she originally grew up, and committing suicide. And that leads to this whole investigation as to what was going on, and then they realize that these are all kidnapped kids who were abducted from their families and their and foster homes and whatever, and forced into this lifestyle. This wasn't a choice they had. And this Godolkin guy is just a fuckhead. I mean, it's absolutely horrible the shit he's doing to these kids. Plus, also he's also raping these children too. I forgot about that.
Let's not forget that little rape.
Yeah,
throw that in.
I mean, it's like
it happens on every other page.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, like I said, this is like the X-Men if just at the absolute worst. And the whole book is filled with this.
I worry about Garth Ennis.
I don't. I mean,
I sit here finished with this series, and it's 72 issues. It takes a while to get through, but I spent my time with it, especially over the weekend. Man, it invades my life because I mean I've been so into it for the last couple of days, and it's kind of all I've been thinking about aside from my football thing. But my God, my head is spinning with it's just full of the most horrific. I don't even want to have sex with my girlfriend right now. I'm scared. Frightening, but it's glorious.
Yeah, let's see some of the other superhero teams. You've got Payback, who are, like I said, they're the Avengers. They're led by Soldier Boy, who is the Captain America of the group.
Mundo.
Tech Knight, who was kicked out of the group. He's kind of like a cross between Batman and Iron Man. And he also he also likes to bugger things.
I want to get into Tech Knight a little bit because I like Tech Knight's problem. Tech Knight is very much like Iron Man. I would say more Iron Man than Batman.
Well, he's imagine Batman if
very in a suit.
Yeah, he's got his cave, he's got his butler, he's the big manner, but he's got the suit of armor like Iron Man does. So he's kind of a cross between the two characters. But
he has a horrible affliction.
What is his horrible affliction?
He has to fuck everything, and not
and
just
by
people,
everything. He means everything. His butler's ear.
His butler's ear, which leads to the butler, of course, leaving. Can't blame the butler for that one.
His psychiatrist's cat, a cup of coffee,
everything. And eventually, a meteor is headed for Earth, and Tech Knight goes up and sees an opening, and basically his jizz blast destroys the meteor and saves the world.
Or so it seems like in his head. Well, the best part of that story, though, was when Huey had to find the bathroom, and he couldn't find the bathroom, so he ended up taking a shit on the floor of the cave next to the Tech-mobile.
He's like right in his tech cave, and he drops a deuce.
Well, and that was one of my, and that led to one of my absolute favorite lines in the book too. When Butcher's telling the team about this, and the Frenchie's like, the glorious first appearance. I mean, there are so many great one-liners in this book.
There are many. But like I said, we were talking in the pre-show. I said my favorite was we live in a world where Jimi Hendrix choked on his vomit and Garth Brooks is still alive. It's not a fair world, kid.
Yeah.
Let's
see. One of my other favorite characters in Payback was Stormfront, who is essentially just a Nazi Superman. You find out later.
He was very Johann Schmidt with a problem. Yeah.
Yeah. You find out eventually he was like the first superhuman created. That Homelander was actually, based off of Stormfront. Stormfront was the first character that Jonas Vogelbaum, the German scientist who created Compound V, this is the first superhuman he created. He is, he's Third Reich all the way. And he hates every second of being in America, but, he knows, which side his bread's buttered on.
And believe me, they don't pull any punches when it comes to him talking either.
Yeah.
Not about minorities, not about anything.
No.
Like I said, if you're skittish about your racism or your treatment of the mentally handicapped, this is definitely something you should avoid.
Yeah. And the story with Payback is one of my favorite stories. It's a self-preservation society story where Payback gets sent after the boys, and it does not go well for that team at all.
At all. Did we leave one alive? Did somebody leave one alive?
Oh, that was the Paralactic fight, yeah.
Oh, that was the Paralactic fight. You're right.
Paralactic was one of the few non-Marvel DC teams that they made fun of. That was they were a Wildcats ripoff.
Oh, okay. All right.
Well, we forgot to mention one of my other favorite characters, Vasily, the love sausage.
Oh,
Voss, yeah.
The love sausage. I love him. I was thinking Terror.
Terror is a great character. We forgot to mention Terror. He is the unofficial mascot of the boys. He is Butcher's bulldog. And the one thing he's been trained to do by Billy Butcher is to fuck things on command.
He says fuck it.
He does.
Doesn't matter if it's cat, dog, person.
No.
He's good.
Monkey found that out the hard way.
Poor Monkey.
And
Monkey is a guy who had his both ears penetrated by monkey jizz, and then was sodomized by
a dog.
Terror.
Yeah, Monkey he's like the assistant director of the he works for like the director of the CIA. He's kind of like the number 2 person in the CIA that they report to. And they just
not the assistant director, but the assistant to the director.
Yeah, exactly. And the boys Billy especially abuses the hell out of him. And Monkey's got this sick fetish. He has got a mat on for paraplegics.
Yeah. Like I said, if there is a fetish to be found, it's in this book somewhere.
Yeah. There's a scene where he's pulling the popcorn trick at the Paralympics, and
yeah.
I mean. Talk about as depraved as you can get. Garth Ennis will find new ways to bring things lower, and God bless him for that.
Thing. He had to hand these pages over to Robertson and go like, "Here, draw this." How do you look at it? Oh
well, sadly, Robertson wasn't around for the entire series. He didn't even. I don't even think he made it halfway through the series. I don't remember if he got sick or he got injured. Pretty early in the run, and had to give up doing the art duties for the monthly titles.
Yeah, he did all the covers, though. I think
he did all the covers. He came back towards the end, and I think he did the artwork for the Butcher miniseries and a couple issues here and there. But for the most part, an artist named Russ Braun took over and did the bulk of the series after Derek Robertson had to step down.
It's too bad because Derek did he did Transmetropolitan, which we're going to get into in a couple weeks. And it's one of my favorite books to read.
Oh yeah. Derek Robertson is a great artist. I've met him a few times. I've chatted with him. I've bought artwork from him. He's a great guy, great artist. He was one of the reasons that I wanted to read this book too when it first came out, because A, I love Garth Ennis, and B, having read Transmetropolitan and loving his work on that, I'm like, 2 of my favorite creators working together on a book. I'm sold.
Sold. I'll take it 100%.
Like I said, unfortunately, he had to drop out early, but he still stayed with the book, in whatever way he could, doing covers mostly. But yeah, still having to hand that script over to an artist and say, yeah, draw this.
Right. And some of it is like, okay, so he's gonna fuck the back of his head while his intestines spill out on the floor. Can you do that?
Yeah.
I can't even imagine it, let alone draw it.
Well, I mean, and a lot of the stuff, there's a lot of stuff that's just implied. In Herogasm especially, you've got basically the Fantastic Four in a group shower orgy, with and the Thing character gets murdered, and the Mr. Fantastic character, stretches his head down to see what's going on while he's still in the shower with like two other women, including the Invisible Woman, and he's sitting there like trying to figure out what's going on. He's like, "Ooh, who's tickling my ass?" So I mean, a lot of the stuff's implied and not shown, but I mean, yeah. If you can think of it, Garth Ennis has already done it, or showed it to you, or told you about it, and then gone like 3 steps beyond that.
Yeah, we talked a long time ago and said that Preacher could never be made on anything but HBO or Showtime, and we got proven wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, America. So here's The Boys, and could you ever see a Boys series or miniseries?
Yeah, it'd have to be done by like Brazzers or Vivid or something like that. I mean, with as much sex and shit goes on in this book, you need somebody with almost have to be a hard X rating to get away with a lot of the stuff in this book.
Hard X, yeah, and we could do that. Maybe we could be the guys that pull this off.
Yeah.
Nah, I can't do that. I got no connections for that.
If they could do this would be the first time it would be a porn parody. This would just be a porn, a porn story.
Porn horror film. It's not even a horror film. It's just the amount of violence is so gory.
Yeah, and they do not shy away from violence. I mean, Garth Ennis has no problem showing you. I mean, look at what happens to Black Noir at the end of the book. I mean, that was pretty fucking graphic.
It was a little bit. He kind of got a spike in the head, right through the mouth, right?
Well, Butcher stuck a crowbar through his eye socket and popped the top of his skull off, and then scooped out his brains by hand.
Yeah, he did hold his hands out like this is the part that was her.
Yeah. Yeah, and like this brings kind of back to what the other major part of the story is a revenge story. Butcher's entire motivation is revenge. Mother's Milk's motivation is a bit of revenge because he wants revenge. He doesn't want revenge against the heroes. He wants revenge against Vought American because they're the ones that ruined his life. They killed his brother. They killed his father. They're the ones that are responsible for his mother's condition. They're the ones that are responsible for his condition. So he's got it out for them. The Frenchman and the female, they're just along for the ride.
Yeah, they don't have much of an agenda. To pose, but they're there. Yeah, they're there to be the like I said, we said the weapon you throw at the target.
Yeah, I mean, even Colonel Mallory has revenge, on the mind. He was there when Vought first dropped superhumans in combat, which led to almost his entire team getting wiped out.
Yeah, it was the World War II thing we were talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, so he's got a bone to pick with this corporation. So I mean, so almost everybody on The Boys, they're out for revenge. I mean, they're not hardcore looking. Let's go kill everybody. That's more Butcher. Butcher's the one that wants to see all the superhumans pay. Every single one of them. He doesn't care if they're innocent, if they are decent people. If you're a superhuman, you got to pay for what you've done.
And he sets out to plan the destruction of all the superheroes. I don't think I'm giving away too much by saying this. He talks about it very early on that the thing to do is to get rid of all of them. Yeah,
I mean, so he kind of thinks of them as a cancer. The only way to get rid of them is to cut it out completely. There is you can't coexist with something like this. These are beings that are above the law, that exist outside of nature, and just have no accountability whatsoever. So the only natural thing to do is just to wipe them all out.
I think that we need another network to go against CW, and the CW can put on all their shit DC shows that you have to watch all of them.
I love their DC shows.
Here's the reason I'm giving them this shit label, and the only reason I can give them this shit label. I started watching Arrow, and I really liked it. I really enjoyed the show. It was really good. And then all of a sudden, I had to start watching The Flash to keep up with Arrow. And now I got to watch fucking Supergirl to keep up with The Flash and the Arrow and the fucking Legends of Tomorrow. I don't want to watch 5 programs. I want to watch 1.
Well, I mean,
I wanted to watch Green Arrow.
You don't necessarily have to watch all 5. I mean,
you lie.
You
lie. If there's a crossover in a comic and you're not reading both stories, you're lost. I don't want to be
True.
lost when I'm watching the show.
But but the thing is the crossovers never really had any impact on the other series. I mean, you look at the first crossover, it wasn't a 2-part story. It was okay, Arrow shows up in Central City to help Flash out, then Flash goes over to Central City to help Arrow out with something. That was the extent of their crossover.
Too much.
If you didn't see one, you didn't miss anything.
Me right there. They lost me right there.
Yeah,
I don't like crossover episodes.
I still like.
I don't want to see the Harlem Globetrotters on Gilligan's Island. I don't like crossover.
But so you're saying another network to kind of counter the CW?
Yeah, and they could have a boys type show that they could obviously tone down the sexuality of it, but they could keep a lot of the nice violence and just have a group that does what the boys do and look out for superheroes that have gone crazy.
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
that's legit.
Yeah, I mean, the book could be modified to fit on like a basic cable channel, like an A&E or AMC or something like that, easily. I mean, even more so if HBO wanted to do it, you can get away with a bit more stuff than what you could get away with on basic cable, but you still couldn't get away with everything.
Better TV adaptation, The Boys or 100 Bullets?
Well, 100 Bullets would definitely lend itself more to a TV format. It's not nearly as graphic sexually as The Boys are, but it's definitely the way Azzarello wrote it. It's very episodic, so it would definitely work as a TV series.
Yeah, I remember. I don't think I read all of 100 Bullets, but I know I read the first like 5 trades maybe, and right,
there were 10 trades total. Yeah. Well, see, the thing, one of the things somebody said about Brad Azzarello's writing that when I went back and reread some of his stuff, it made a lot of sense, is that Brian Azzarello doesn't know how to write issues. He knows how to write stories. So a lot of the stuff gets broken down in ways that don't quite make sense. The issue breaks in storylines sometimes feel disjointed and not quite complete. But if you read the whole story, as all 6 issues or 8 issues of a storyline, then it's a brilliant story. But if you're reading it monthly, it's not nearly as good.
Trade read then.
Exactly.
This would have been hard to do weekly. Or monthly. I'd have had a hard time with that.
I did it monthly. I mean, I've read all of it. I've got every single issue of the series, because that's what I do. I've got 5 or 6 of the regular hardcovers. I've got all 5 of the definitive edition hardcovers, which collects the entirety of the series. The books that I really like, I have no problem buying them multiple times. And I really liked this book.
I thank you for bringing this one to us, and I'm glad I got into this because it's vaulted into my top 10 of full runs.
Yeah,
and it might be the top 5. It would be hard. I mean, Transmet and Preacher are like 1 and 2.
Yeah,
God, that is really hard to think about. I would have to put some time into that.
Thinking of a top 5 list.
A top 5 for full series runs. I don't know if I could do.
Why the Last Man would be in there.
Yeah. Fables, maybe. I like Fables, but I don't think I finished it.
Fables was good. Towards the end, it started getting a little, it was still good, but it's like, it seemed like they were trying to stretch it out as long as they could.
I really wanted Once Upon a Time to be Fables, but it just wasn't.
No, it wasn't.
Not at all.
Yeah, I think it was kind of billed that way because there was talks of ABC doing a Fables TV series, and I think that just eventually became Once Upon a Time.
No, okay. So we're about done here tonight. Next week, I guess we'll be back, and we're going to do some Warren Ellis.
Excellent.
Do Planetary Authority, or is that? I don't know how long those are.
Well, Planetary is 27 issues. Authority is a bit of a trickier one because he only wrote 12 issues of the Authority.
If you Planetary.
We'll actually Stormwatch Authority. We can do that because he wrote the end of Stormwatch, which then became the Authority. So we could do that if you wanted to. Basically, from Stormwatch from 37 to 50 was Warren Ellis, and then that became and then it became Authority. Actually, no, 37 to 50. Then there was 11 issues that absolutely ended a Stormwatch, and then it became Authority.
What do you want to do? You tell me. Do you want to do Planetary? Let's do that. I mean, it seems like there's more to that than Stormwatch.
I mean, yeah. What else are we going to cover? We're going to do Planetary. We're going to do Transmetropolitan.
Yeah, I got to Transmet's a big one. Yeah, what else do you want to do? What else? I don't know his catalog as well as you do.
Those are his two biggest. I'd say those are probably his two best works. I can stick with those, and then maybe throw in like Why the Last Man.
Okay, well, you're gonna kill me.
Well, again, like for Why the Last Man, we can kind of do this where we don't have to sit there and break down every single storyline. We can talk about the overall.
Yeah, like this. All right, well, yeah, this was a little disjointed, but I kind of liked it better than just straight recapping this because I really think you should go read this book if you're paying attention to this because it's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, and like I said, it's all totaled. It's close to 90 issues. It sounds pretty daunting, but it's well worth the read.
It does. It is daunting. I have to say, I take about 15 minutes per book to read.
Yeah.
So
and we're not saying you need to
hammer out 20 issues today.
Yeah. Yeah, we're not saying you need to shotgun this series, but if you're in the mood for a really good series that from start to finish is just absolutely brilliant, this is a book that you should definitely take your time with.
I would go get a soft trade paperback and put it on the back of your toilet, just so if anybody comes over, they can pick it up and leaf through it.
And you can find out who really your friends are, because if they're really offended and they're gonna be like, "What the fuck," and they're never gonna come back over and use your bathroom again.
Right? Yeah. Or they're just gonna like run from your shit or screaming.
Like, what the fuck is this in your bathroom?
I think after we do Planetary, I want to do Kevin Smith week.
Okay.
His stories were short and I can get through them quick.
Which Kevin Smith ones are we talking? Green Arrow
and Daredevil.
Okay.
We can do his run of Daredevil. Okay. Do you have that? I'm sure you do.
Probably. I might have it. I know about the issues, but if I'm sure I can find them if somewhere else online or something.
Go to your local comic book store, pick up The Boys, and enjoy yourself a good violent read. I think you will like it. I give it an A+.
Yeah, you definitely can't go wrong with this book. If you've got a twisted sense of humor and you like just some random fucked up shit, you're gonna love this book.
If you love Preacher, it's right there.
Yeah,
it is really right with Preacher as far as how just absolutely fucked up it is.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's got that same sense of humor. I mean, this is the only book I can think of where there's been a character who shows up answering the door with a bloody face after having gone down on his girlfriend.
That does happen. I don't think we need to do too many more back issues, actually, because we got to get back into Walking Dead coming up here probably in September.
Yeah,
we're going to do a recap to
Walking Dead comes back the 23rd of October, so maybe spend a couple weeks before that, recapping some Walking Dead.
Yeah, we could do a season each. We could do like six weeks before it.
Yeah,
we could do a season each week.
Yeah, we can do that.
Compare it to the comics and whatnot.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, so we'll put a schedule together and let you know when the Walking Dead's going to start. And we still need a name for the Walking Dead podcast. I got a thing. We got some good feedback. We got some really crappy feedback. Thanks, people. Once you get to go with the band.
Yeah, it's the internet. You're gonna get both.
I've been horrible with getting with Melanie and Elvis, and I'm horrible at keeping appointments lately. I mean, I was supposed to go over there Friday. And I will admit, we went to happy hour and got schmammered, and that was the end of that. And
it happens.
I was busy all. Yeah, and I was busy all weekend, and I just didn't get to them. But I will get with them, and we'll get the American Horror Story up. I think some of the boys at my fantasy draft want to do a wrestling podcast.
Nice. WWE wrestling?
Yeah.
Hey.
They might bring you for an episode.
Yeah.
All right, that's it. I ain't got nothing else to plug. Join us for Fantasy Monkeys tomorrow, Monkey Caviar on Wednesday, and we'll be back here next Monday for another issue of Back Issues. I'm Tiny, your host. That's Adam Levy. Until next week, love many, trust few, and do harm to no one.